now.
Yeah, Larry, back to you. So in 2018, Dekalb County had completed a housing affordability study that had various recommendations relating to affordable housing in the county. So as CEO, how would you work to implement some of those recommendations?
Well, as the chair of one of the committees who led that effort, the goal was to work with our federal and state partners. As you know so well, Zoe, that the HUD is funded by our federal government, and the states gets the subsidies for us to do public-private partnerships. I passed the first workforce housing ordinance in the state of Georgia, which would bring public-private partnerships together, because we need to have a place for our firefighters, our nurses, and our teachers, as well as for our seniors. And so I will work to really to improve and to build that collaboration of public-private partnerships and bring all of our housing agencies together, but also will create my own pot to make sure that we're matching the funds for housing, because I had a $20 million senior housing complex right in our district, and the seniors are loving it.
All right. Sarah, you get the final question in this round for Lorraine Cochran-Johnson.
As you know, Dekalb is still under a federal consent decree to improve sewer infrastructure and address repeated sewer spill sites. How will you ensure the work that's already underway is completed and completed by the deadline? And how will you ensure that Dekalb is not in this situation in the future?
Absolutely. And first, I'd like to say that I answer the questions that are asked. The first question did not ask how I would go about protection beyond ensuring the ordinance. As it relates to ongoing consent decree and meeting the expansion, increasing, and enlarging our water and infrastructure, I'm proud to have served for 3 years as your Public Works and Infrastructure Chair, where I have allocated more than $1.4 billion towards expanding, replacing, and enlarging infrastructure. It is the largest dollar amount in the history of DeKalb County for a sitting commissioner. And I will continue to ensure that our WIFIA, Water Infrastructure Finance Act loans, as well as our GFA, Georgia Environmental Finance Infrastructure Act loans, are in place, because in terms of providing and expanding infrastructure, it's not an option. It is absolutely necessary. Many of you are very aware of the incident that happened just days ago here in the city of Atlanta, and we don't want to have that repeat in DeKalb.
I want to take a minute to ask a question of both of you really quickly. They're going to get me, but we just talked about the problem that happened in Atlanta. The current CEO has talked about raising taxes to prepare DeKalb's infrastructure. Your thoughts on that quickly, please.
I will respond by saying that we had not had a sewer water increase for over 20 years in DeKalb County. Now, I think we all understand that being reasonable, 20 years we've had growth, 20 years we've had inflation. However, for many years prior to CEO Thurman and active engagement in 2017 to expand and replace infrastructure, we had not taken measurable actions. So we must provide for the expansion of the future, because our businesses as well as our residents, we require clean, safe water, and we can not expand economic development in certain corridors of DeKalb because we simply do not have the water sewer capacity. So we have to sharpen our pencils, engage both federal and state officials alongside us and partners to be champions and take advantage of the current water funds that are available on the federal level as a part of Biden's Infrastructure Investment Act.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, I would just add, I voted against that last water increase. My opponent led the effort to increase it, because I really feel we need to look for the federal and state folks to come in first and not burden our taxpayers to make that happen. And so I will continue as your CEO to make sure we find federal help, state help, to make sure that we don't just burden our taxpayers, because our seniors are having a tough time already trying to make ends meet, meals, pay for medicine. And we need to make sure that we're careful and not to just say we need to have another tax rate increase, because inflation is raging out of control.
Rebuttal.
No, we're going to move on to the next round. Okay, that is our first round. You will have a chance to rebut in this next round. The candidates will now ask a question to each other, and the candidate who asks the question will also have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. So we're going to begin with you, Lorraine Cochran-Johnson. You get the first question for your opponent, Larry Johnson.
Yes, after serving Commissioner Larry Johnson for over 22 years, you've demonstrated no vision, no plan, and no initiative that voters can see. You've touted small-scale development as major economic development over the years. But District 3 has the highest crime rate, and our once vibrant corridor along Candler Road has declined throughout the years. Why would we believe that you would have the ability to now begin productive development, and also with your track record of being a champion for projects like the land swap that has proven to be a horrible decision? Why should we trust you now?
Well, first of all, we should trust me because what Lorraine doesn't share is that she shares District 3. She's a Super District 7 commissioner. And so she has not championed anything along Candler Road because we have a $20 million senior housing complex. We built a brand new library. We turned the old funeral home into a senior center. And so if you talk about vision and collaboration, you can't do it because it takes experience. I have vision and experience, and you can see it along Candler Road to make those things happen. And so if you're talking about vision and having experience, I mean, you sponsored silver sponsorship for a mega Republican event that's now going to send delegates to Milwaukee to make sure they vote for President Trump. You talk about being responsible. You talk about being experienced. Where does that vision lead us?
Commissioner Cochran-Johnson, you have rebuttal time.
Thank you so much. I want everyone to know that I am the commissioner who has funded the small area revitalization plan for South DeKalb Mall. And I've also led the effort, despite Commissioner Larry Johnson normal coursing the original request for the improvement and to fund the plan when I presented it. I'd also like to say that I did accept an invitation to speak at a GOP breakfast. It was actually sponsored by a friend who is a GOP member. But as an elected official, you represent all people, not just white, black, rich, poor, Democrats, and Republicans.
That is our time. All right. Commissioner Johnson, you now have a chance to ask a question of your opponent.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Lorraine Cochran-Johnson. You talk about your business experience and reimagining government. But your business you had around eyeglass frames and also your 3L studio, they all have failed and dissolved. You first have to have get your house in order. We have a $2 billion government. How do you think the taxpayers and voters of DeKalb is going to trust you when your business does not exist anymore?
Let me be clear that any business that I've started, if I've chosen to dissolve it because of the responsibilities that I now have as a Super District 7 commissioner to commit my time to the service of the people of DeKalb, it was a personal responsibility, and it was done after careful decision making. I have been the individual who have sponsored the DeKalb County Small Business Franchise Expo for several years, and I have been personally responsible for the development of more than 32 businesses in DeKalb County through my strategic efforts. So I'm well versed in the creation of businesses. I understand when it is time to move on from a business you may have started. And all dissolutions were done, and there were no adverse situations that occurred as a result of them. They were personal financial decisions for me at that time.
Commissioner Johnson, you have time for a rebuttal.
Yes, this office is about the chief executive officer position, not the chief exaggeration officer. My opponent cannot name one of those businesses. The Small Business Expo was held in Cobb County. Why didn't we have it in DeKalb? And what franchises have been developed in South DeKalb, Central DeKalb, in our community? And so I think the taxpayers and voters need to know we can't have someone who experiments. We need someone with experience. And Larry Johnson will be the CEO who gets it done, because I will not sit behind the desk or do any more studies. We need to get time for some action.
All right, we could keep going on this, but we are going to move on to our second round. You are watching the runoff debate for DeKalb County CEO. We'll now go back to the panel to ask questions to the candidate of their choice until we run out of time. Now, as a point of moderator privilege, once again, I may also ask questions of the candidates. I will determine when a rebuttal is appropriate as well here. So, Sarah Gregory, you get the first question in this round.
This question is for you both. DeKalb's Charter Review Commission has completed its work and made recommendations for changes. Which of the commission's proposals do you support, and which proposals do you oppose? Larry, you can answer first.
Thank you so much for that question, Ms. Gregory. I support 99% of those. The one that I would like to do more enhancement on is the open records one. Instead of creating a position, I will make sure my law department has someone who's located in the law department. I will put it on the website so citizens can find how to do an open records request. And so the Charter Review Commission came back with some great findings. I appreciate what the citizens did. Michael Thurman put together a great panel of citizens who really, really care about our community, and we must continue to uphold the standards that Charter Review Committee did. And so, Sarah, that's my response to that question.
Commissioner Cochran-Johnson.
Yes, I would say that the Charter Review Commission did a good job, but there's still a lot of work to be done. I definitely support the eradication of the conflicts between the current state law and DeKalb County law, because in many instances we have adopted local laws that are in direct conflict with the state. Also, transparency. We have had a huge cry for transparency and the easy access to information, including audits, as well as general documents. So as your CEO, you can expect me to expand upon those and make things easy for our citizens. And last but not least, Charter Review showed that the citizens of DeKalb County want greater engagement. So I look forward to expanding upon opportunities for citizens to serve on the front line while expanding our local network, our DCTV, to be a fully functional program that carries all meetings as well as local programming.
All right, Zoe Seiler from Decatur-ish, your next question.
Sounds good. My question is for you, Larry. As the CEO, how would you work with the cities in DeKalb County to address issues facing the unhoused population?
Oh, I would work with them 100% around public-private partnerships, because homelessness has no boundaries. We need to first talk about what services are needed: mental health, substance abuse, job skills, life skills. Those are the things that all of our cities in the county can participate all of our in mayors together. I together. would first convene all of our mayors together to make sure we're moving forward. I work with the city of Atlanta on major issues that have arisen, and now I'll do the same as our CEO of DeKalb County, because we are all in this together, and affordability impacts all of us. We have to make sure we use my workforce housing resolution that I passed to make sure we create more public-private partnerships, but also have the service delivery system in place so people who are unhoused have the necessary resources that we can get them back on their feet to make a difference in DeKalb and become productive citizens.
Commissioner Cochran-Johnson, did you want to add to that?
I'm so sorry, but no, we can move forward
All
with
right.
my question.
Let's move ahead then to this next one. And actually, we want to make sure, Sarah, you have the next question for your candidate.
This question is for you, Lorraine. Long ambulance response times continue to be an issue with the company that DeKalb has contracted with to provide these services. What would you do to speed up response times and ensure that when people need help, they get it quickly?
Absolutely. Recently, after a regional report was disclosed, it was determined that our current ambulance service, AMI, is only responding according to state guidelines to 20% of all calls. As your CEO, I think it's really imperative here that we must expand service delivery. Whether or not AMI has the ability, then if necessary, we must put the contract out to bid or determine whether we need to increase the amount of ambulances that are available. I have spoken to individuals who are within the industry, and currently the DeKalb County response system is the 8th largest in the United States. We have extreme volume, and I do believe that we must expand the amount of ambulances that are available to our residents to increase our response time, but also, if necessary, rebid the contract after careful review.
Commissioner Johnson, you look like you wanted to rebut that.
No, I just want to say that we need to, when a person has a heart attack or stroke, we need to make sure that we have ambulance there on the spot. I made sure as a county commissioner that we put the stroke medicine as part of all the EMS systems, because, as you know, the first couple of seconds for a stroke victim is needed. And so I will make sure that our AMR are at very critical locations in our community, so we don't have to always call way downtown and get someone to come. They will be right there in areas, and I'll make them more proactive. Where are the calls most likely to happen? That's where my public health background comes in. It's all about health and wellness, and how do we make sure we educate and enforce the things that we have.
All right, let's move on. Zoe Seiler, your next question.
Yes, my next question is for both of you. So What issues around roads and sidewalks do you see that are impacting residents, and how would you plan to address those? I think, Larry, we could start with you.
That's a great question, and I tell you again, the potholes are just messing us up. I feel like I'm playing the Frogger game. I'm always trying to dodge the pothole to get to where I have to go. We got to make sure that we fill those potholes, but then more importantly, use the splosh that we just passed, $500 million for infrastructure and equity, and we use that to pave our roads. Citizens are asking to see results, and we've shown those results in the first splosh. And what I would do in the second one, that office will continue to stay on the 6th floor with me as the CEO, because I'm going to prioritize infrastructure and equity to make sure our sidewalks, our trails are in place, that people feel a sense of accomplishment, that they paid an extra penny, and that penny is being used to make sure they get all of the resources available. And I also will match it. I'll go to our federal partners and state partners and say, hey, DeKalb County is one of the major players, not only in the state, but the nation. We need your help in partnering with us to match these resources, because where DeKalb goes, the state of Georgia goes, and this nation goes.
I want to quickly interject and talk about, since you're talking public services, the public training facility that is being built. Can I get some comments from both of you on that and the status?
I would like the opportunity to answer the first question, because it was posed to both candidates.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I would like to first correct Mr. Johnson. The first SPLOST generated over $686 million, and current SPLOST is designed to produce over 800,000. Now, as it relates to our roads and infrastructure, during the first SPLOST, 85% was earmarked specifically for infrastructure, while 15% was allowed for capital and improvement plans that primarily produce for us much needed fire stations. I will say that I will continue to be committed to the infrastructure, because DeKalb County was the last player at the table, major player, to have a SPLOST program. So for over 30 years, the city of Atlanta, Cobb, and Gwinnett had a SPLOST. But under the existing leadership, which included my opponent, no SPLOST had been sought until 2017 upon the arrival of CEO Michael Thurman. Those dollars are absolutely critical, and they allow us to plan for the future. So through my leadership, we will continue to expand sidewalks as well as resurfacing of roads and address potholes.
All right, thank you. Can we talk Atlanta Public Training Facility now? Commissioner Johnson, your thoughts right now?
Yes, ma'am. That's very critical for our community, and I tell people all the time, I wasn't for the location of it there because our citizens were dealing with bombings and shootings. But I was for the public training facility, and I think that's key. But since we didn't win that vote, because it's part of Atlanta, we can't control it, I helped put citizens on that board to help direct the resources and training where it needs to go. New sidewalks are coming in, new cameras. They're working with McNair High School to work more around public safety careers in our community. I think you have to create a win-win when you're dealing with a situation you don't own the land, but we have to find a way for Atlanta to continue to be good neighbors, and I will, as the CEO, to make sure that that is done, that we keep doing that to make sure the citizens feel like they're being heard. And we will do that as the CEO of DeKalb County, and making sure that we have not only the best public safety training facility in our area, but also the citizens are being heard.
Commissioner Cochran-Johnson.
Yes, I will say that as it relates to the public training facility that is currently being constructed in DeKalb, but on the Atlanta side, of course, the city of Atlanta owns the land, so they are moving forward. As a sitting commissioner in DeKalb County, I learned of the project literally through news reports and the Atlanta Business Chronicle. So I'd like to say that we did not initially have a seat at the table when critical decisions were made. I, like most individuals that I represent, have expressed concern. I understand the need, because our officers face really critical and unique times. So the training that is necessary in everything from technology to the use of de-escalation is very critical. I look forward to having critical conversations, because I feel there has been a missed opportunity for DeKalb County to be more of a partner, particularly with the use of the facility for our officers, because our current training facilities are woefully inappropriate and out of order for productive use.
All right, that is all the time we have for questions. The candidates will now have 60 seconds for a closing statement. Larry Johnson, you got the first closing statement.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, and Sarah, for really putting on a nice debate. Thank you to Lorraine Cochran Johnson for being here as well. I just want to tell the citizens of DeKalb County we must come back out to vote. Early voting starts on Monday and it goes to the 14th. June 18th is election. Don't let people tell you that you're not going to vote. DeKalb County has elected 2 senators that's made a difference in the U.S. Senate. But I want to make sure you understand I'm the CEO who's going to do infrastructure equity. We're going to have the best trained, best paid public safety officials around. Education, economic development. I'm going to push for restaurants and better stores. We're going to do WIN, have our young people connected with vocational training. We're going to fill these potholes and make sure that our permitting process is fixed so small businesses does not feel like they're being left behind to make a difference in our community. We make the path by walking it together, DeKalb. Come on back out. You showed me a great win. Now we can do it again. LJ all the way. LJ all the way. See you on June 18th.
All right, Commissioner Lorraine Cochran Johnson.
Yes, thank you all for actually sponsoring the debate here today, and thank you to my opponent, Commissioner Larry Johnson, for the conversation.
Yes.
The day of praise without productivity in DeKalb County has ended. The voters proved that back on May 21st when I carried 156 out of 191 precincts, with my opponents only carrying a total of 35 precincts combined. I have produced in DeKalb. I'm the commissioner who has brought groundbreaking legislation. I'm the commissioner who has led the charge to end the proliferation of our community with undesirable businesses. And I am the commissioner who brought hope to DeKalb when we issued over $22 million in first-time home loans and down payment assistance to create more equitable communities. I'm the person who has a vision for DeKalb. I have demonstrated leadership and I continue to deliver. Return to the polls and vote on June 18th, Lorraine for Change.
All right, that concludes our program. We'd like to remind voters that, as we just heard, Election Day is June 18th. Please go to My Voter page. That's on the Georgia Secretary of State's website to learn about early voting in your area where you need to go. Our thanks to the candidates and to our panel of esteemed journalists. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club and Georgia Public Broadcasting for arranging today's wonderful program. For more information about the Atlanta Press Club debates, visit atlantapressclub.org. I'm Karen Greer. Thank you for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk-Young debate series.